Just bring you up to date on the latest developments in America's new war. There's another arrest report for you in Tuesday's terrorist attacks. The Justice Department is telling CNN the FBI has arrested a second material witness. You recall yesterday we told you about the first arrest. That person was arrested after being at John F. Kennedy Airport after having a false pilot certificate, a certificate that was not his. This latest arrestee has not been named, but he is in custody in New York, we are told. President Bush is not mincing words about Osama bin Laden, as we've been telling you. At a meeting at Camp David yesterday, Mr. Bush called bin Laden the prime suspect in Tuesday's terrorist attacks, and he said the U.S. would smoke bin Laden out of his hole, his words. Wall Street is reopening tomorrow after the longest shutdown in its history. The market expected to be volatile, as you might expect. Airlines are facing severe losses, and firms like General Electric and Ford are bracing for tough economic conditions. Paula.
All right, Miles, thanks so much. From the platform today, you can't really make out the smoke that continues to billow from the site of what used to be the World Trade Centers. What you're actually seeing this morning is a combination of steam and smoke. Now that rescue workers are able to, day by day, get deeper and deeper into the rubble, air is actually hitting flames, and once that happens, it fuels those flames. 22,000 tons of rubble moved thus far. The FBI now calling this the largest crime scene ever in the United States. You might, if you were with us at the top of the hour, had heard that a passport belonging to one of the hijackers was actually discovered yesterday several blocks away from the crash site. That prompted both the FBI and police to widen the search area beyond the immediate crash site. That's why this is being called the biggest crime scene in American history. I want to show you a picture now that was taken to give you a better idea of just how dramatically the skyline of New York has changed. These are the twin 107-story towers that existed before 8:45 on Tuesday morning. Now, of course, this is what the skyline looks like today. Let's head down to Ground Zero, where Bill Hemmer is deployed today for an update on exactly what is happening in this painstaking process. Hi, Bill.
Paula, good morning to you. Now day 6 down here, and these numbers, if you look at them on the surface, are just absolutely astounding and staggering. 159 confirmed fatalities at this point. They're still looking for 4,972 people in the buildings just about 2.5 blocks south of me. You mentioned 22,000 tons. They think they might, in the end, take out about 500,000 tons before all the rubble is cleared. And one rescuer yesterday who was leaving the site late last night said we're looking at least a month and quite possibly a lot longer than that before everything is cleared out from the rubble and what has been known as the pile here in southern Manhattan. It's been since Wednesday since anyone has been pulled out alive, and certainly that continues to dim hopes for those who are holding on to hope, to the possibility that some may be found inside here. I want to bring in Nancy Rutherford, a spokesperson with the American Red Cross here, who's been on the scene since Wednesday here in Lower Manhattan. Nancy, good morning to you. You were in Oklahoma City back in 1995. You were also in Western India in January this past year, where that devastating earthquake hit. You say there are similarities between those two events and what we're seeing here. Tell us how.
There are so many similarities, but also some differences. The similarities are the sense of vulnerability that we felt in Oklahoma City because of not having any control over what happened. In an earthquake situation, they had the trucks taking out the debris over and over and over. But in all three of these, the same look in the family's eyes as they're waiting for news of their loved one. Lots of tears, swollen eyes, firefighters holding out hope, rescue workers working endless hours.
What do you tell people, knowing that you're in contact with a lot of the counselors and grief counselors who are here on the scene, knowing that it's now day 6, no one has come out alive since Wednesday, and even at this point, you say in India back in January, still people were coming out alive, being found inside their homes trapped.
They were, and you know, that's why their hope is warranted, I think. There were extenuating circumstances. There were a woman who had 3 tomatoes with her in her trapped little area, and that helped her survive for days. I think it was day 9 or 10 when they finally brought her out. So there's still some hope.
When you talk to the rescuers who are in there working on many times 12, 14, 18-hour shifts, what difficulties are they having?
I think the hardest thing for them is walking away from it. I think they want to be there. They tell us such a sense of family, and they want to be there and don't want to give up on their family. So getting them out and having them take some rest, they're so fatigued, and they're also trying not to think about it. They're trying to keep their energy level up and trying not to relive or rethink what they're going through, so they can have the strength to go on.
Keep fighting the good fight, okay? Nancy Rutherford, the American Red Cross this morning. Last night, we started to see again more signs of life trickling back to normalcy here in southern Manhattan. And tomorrow, 9:30 a.m., the opening bell of the New York Stock Exchange will go off again. Another sign that things will start to take root again, and the Stock Exchange, such a pillar of strength in this country. Greg Clarkin now on what's happening on the markets and what we may expect going into tomorrow.
The opening bell is expected to sound on Wall Street Monday morning, breaking the silence that has blanketed the New York Stock Exchange since Tuesday's terrorist attacks. Sitting just a few blocks east of what was the World Trade Center, the NYSE has been covered in ash, but the grime is now washed away, replaced by an American flag. After hours of testing its internal systems Saturday, Chairman Richard Grasso declared all systems go and vowed Monday's opening bell would be rich in symbolism.
To send a very important message to the criminals who so heinously attacked this country that they've lost. The American way of life goes on, business recommences.
The NYSE sustained no major structural damage, and inside the more than 100-year-old building, technicians tested the systems linking brokerages to the exchange, and the results have been encouraging.
We are very pleased with the progress that all of the firms have made, particularly our major firms who account for the lion's share of the order flow here.
Uptown, the NASDAQ has run tests of its own and termed those results terrific. It too vows to begin trading Monday morning. As for the American Stock Exchange, it suffered damage to its building and will trade out of the NYSE. The exchange and the city of New York have worked to restore access to the financial district. Once there, employees will find even tighter security around the NYSE, and everything from counselors to deal with trauma to surgical masks to deal with dust will be readily available. Greg Clarkin, CNN Financial News, New York.
And as Greg was mentioning, we do expect a number of subway stops to be open, but still many are closed in the southern end of Manhattan, and the traffic will be limited. No private traffic, we're told, tomorrow when Wall Street does open. At 9:30 a.m. or shortly before there, we're expecting a 2-minute moment of silence, followed by the singing of God Bless America. When the opening bell does sound, very symbolic, the Treasury Secretary, Paul O'Neill, will be there to ring it. Also, a number of New York Fire Department and New York police officers will be there as well. In addition to that, the Port Authority from New York and New Jersey expected to have people on the podium above the trading floor. About 3,000 traders on a normal day work there, and about 1,500 other staff members of the New York Stock Exchange. Dick Grasso yesterday was indicating he expects all of those to show up for work tomorrow. We shall see, though, again, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, when another sign of life comes back to this part of a devastated New York City. Paula, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Bill. We have talked a lot over the last couple of days about how flexible the city has been in trying to allow support staff into that perimeter area surrounding the World Trade Center to provide encouragement to those who still have hope their loved ones will be found in this rubble. And among those folks are three brothers I'm going to introduce you to now: Father Conrad Osterhout, Brother Damiano Vassade, and Brother Isaiah Loboto. Welcome to you all. Now, some of you actually got into Ground Zero. Some of you were at that gate that marks the entrance to Ground Zero. Brother Damiano, what did you see when you got inside?
I saw a lot of wreckage and destruction beyond anything I imagined beforehand, beyond description. I saw a lot of people helping, tons of volunteers, fire and police, all assisting. Really saw how charity and suffering are united, and in the midst of it all, I think God is showing us a new way to love, and it's beautiful to see that in all this suffering and all this destruction, love still exists, and there is charity that is overcoming, and it's the light in all this.
Father, what do you think you've been able to give back? People are suffering very deeply. People are questioning a God that, if you believe in God, that could allow for something so evil to happen. Even Reverend Billy Graham expressed that in his sermon the other day. People are struggling with their faith. What are you giving back?
Well, the word is encourage, to give courage to one another, to see that evil and suffering coexist with good and with, as Brother was talking about, love. And one officer came to us, he said, brothers, we are standing at the line in the place of ground zero between good and evil. But when we come out and see you, we realize that we are covered with prayer. And we have to ask the question, what is evil? You know, and for us, it's linked to sin. Men and women sin, the world, there's society's sins. We ourselves as a society have to account for certain sins and difficulties. And God wants us to recognize, I think, at this time, that He is helping us, that good is in the midst of this, that He is working for our behalf. We're encouraging, that is giving courage to people. And if we ask what is evil and what is sin, the real horror here is that human life has been lost. And we recognize human life, even from its beginning, conception, to its end, is sacred.
Brother Isaiah, you have not only come into contact with folks that are working around the clock to find folks that are missing in hopes of rescuing them. You have seen family members flood into the area, trying to grasp onto any little bit of information they can get. Give us an idea of what kind of response you've gotten and the level of this nightmarish experience these folks are living.
You could see it in the eyes of the people, you know, the men, the courageous men, just they're tired, exhausted, but at the same time come up and admit their faith in Jesus and say, you know, I was raised Catholic, or I was raised Christian, I'm definitely going to church on Sunday, you know, today is the Lord's Day. And there's great hope, you know, when they see us, they say, thank you for being here. There's not much you can do in time of tremendous suffering like this, but to be present, to be a sign of God's love and mercy, His presence with us right now, you know, to convey the Lord's mercy in a situation like this, that Jesus suffers with us. When he went to the cross, He suffered just like this.
I want to get a shot of something that I have in my hand, Father, that you've given me, and it's a picture and an inscription, obviously that a young child did. What is the significance of this, and why did you bring this here this morning?
This image of asking for a blessing to those who have been volunteers has been a donation from families in Lyndhurst, New York. And a young boy has drawn this and attached it to a package of candy that he wanted to give to the volunteers and to encourage them and to give them a blessing. It symbolizes that this has affected everybody, even our children, and we really have to teach our children something about, you know, having courage in the midst of suffering.
The downside of this enormous amount of support and outpouring of love that New Yorkers have shown and Americans all across the country is that the city has been overwhelmed by donations, and right now they're simply, then the Red Cross is simply asking for cash. So many supplies have been donated, they've got no place to store them. For a final question, I want some thoughts of all of you about the difficulty, the task of the rescue workers down there. Now, we know those folks are instinctively trained to do what they do. Do you think they're getting the level of support they deserve?
Well, it is difficult to reach so many, and they do need a lot of support. I think particularly they need to have the encouragement of faith, to be honest with you, because they can get counseling, but the presence of symbols of faith, the confidence that this depends on something far greater than ourselves, is very important at this hour. And I really believe that we're facing the possibility of war very clearly. And people are grieving already, seeing this horror. It's not buildings, it's people, the human loss. And we're facing the possibility of a greater human loss. As Mother Teresa put it, war is poverty. It creates poverty. There will be a great poverty on the earth because of the loss of life, the human life, which is so precious.
Well, I thank you all three for joining us here this morning and for sharing some of what you've experienced down there, a place that a lot of folks never want to go to, never want to see what you saw. Continued good luck.
Amen.
Thank you.
God bless you, Paula.
Thank you very much. Let's go back to John King, who continues to join us from the Capitol right now. There you are. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning again to you, Paula, and thank you. I want to bring in now our Bob Franken, who's been keeping post over at the Pentagon overnight.